And they think it's because they're chasing after kids, they're working, they have to clean the house. Yes, I'm not saying those things aren't adding to it, but you could feel so much better to do all those tasks if you were on the right HRT.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in to First Optimal Podcast. Here with Pam Campbell. Really excited to get into a conversation with Pam. Couple reasons why we reached out, wanted to bring Pam and her knowledge and experience to our audience. So you'll see a mixture of guests on our show with different specialty credentials, different coaching backgrounds, dietitians, stories, etc. But one of the unique things about Pam's background is she has over 30 years of in-person training experience. And now with kind of the transition she's went through in life, she's working heavily with a lot of perimenopause and menopausal women. So I think it's going to be a really great action-packed conversation. So we'll obviously get a little bit into the science and some of that stuff, which we normally do in the episode, but also sound, practical, realistic advice that she's tried and true over the course of 30 plus years, which is going to be very, very hard to duplicate or compete with. So thanks for taking the time out. I know you're super busy, but appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
And remind me again, what part of the country are you in, Pam?
I am in Colorado. So I was in Denver and now I'm closer to Boulder.
Gotcha. What's the weather like for you today?
It is sunny. So cool. What's great about Colorado is you could sit outside, and when it's 40 degrees outside, you can still get the warmth of the sun. So I think it's like 50 right now.
Yeah, we're about 10. I'm here in Michigan with snow on the ground, about 10, 15 degrees cooler. So
no.
But for whatever reason, I don't know why my brain went to Arizona, but yeah, that's right. You told me that you're in Colorado. I don't know why I did that, but so yeah, well, thanks for joining us, as I mentioned, and want to kind of get into this. So obviously we're going to have to take you back a bit to talk a little bit about how you got into coaching, training, all this good stuff, the gym life. I'm wondering if you can walk us through that story and where did it all begin?
Well, I mean, we're talking a long time ago. So I would say I first got introduced to the gym when I was 16. And so if this guy from high school is listening, Artie, thank you. Artie Powers, I still remember his name, brought me into the gym at the local high school and kind of sparked my interest. And then the first thing that I did when I first got my own driver's license is I joined a gym with my own money, the Natick Sports Club in Natick, Massachusetts. And I went every day after school by myself. No other kid, no other friend was going, and started lifting weights. And then I don't even know how I did this, but I hired my own personal trainer to train me maybe once or twice a week. I don't really remember that so much, but I remember being worked so hard that I couldn't drive home for at least 30 minutes. I do remember that. And back then, I mean, we're talking about 87. No one got certified back then. You just trained people, right? So I have no idea how much money was. I have no, I don't remember his name, nothing. That's all I remember. And then I also got into the endorphins, group fitness classes. So this one particular person, this was a very sculpted black guy that was just like a beautiful creature ever, and it extremely intimidated me, but his class was amazing. And that's how I got into group fitness. So when I went to college, I didn't have any of that anymore because, you leave your gym, you go to a college. So I go to college and I was missing all of that. So I put up a sign in my all girls dorm saying free aerobics class. I had no clue what, can I swear?
Sure.
Okay, I had no clue what the F I was doing. And I had like 20 girls show up. And this was back in the day when you had a boom box and you made your own tape cassette. This was also back in the day where we wore our thongs on the outside of spandex, like the leotards on the outside.
Yep.
And so then I did that. I think it was Monday, Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. And every day, every class, more girls showed up, and that's kind of how it started. And then I ended up becoming head of the aerobics department for University of Massachusetts for the next 3.5 years. I even got paid, got certified, and then in the interim of all that, I realized, like, oh my God, you can actually major in exercise. Change my major, and then that's how my world started. So I've been in fitness since I was 17.
That's awesome. You remind me of a little bit. I won't go too far about myself, but I remember I couldn't wait till I turned, and we grew up in my dad worked hard to provide, so we were in a rough area, but we were on slightly nicer little pocket of town, but we were still around a lot of drugs and gangs and stuff like that. But the reason why that part of the story kind of matters a little bit is when I remember I couldn't wait till I was 14 because no gym would they wouldn't take my money until I turned 14.
Right.
So I turned 14. I'm talking to this guy at the desk of the gym, and it's, 3 miles from my house. So I have to get a ride, maybe 4 or 5, about 5 miles. And my dad, I'll never forget, was just complaining about having to drive me to the gym every day. And the guy's like, look, man, like you could be out like doing drugs. Listen, he's like, you're coming to the gym. Like, what's your dad's deal? I was like, look, he works a lot of hours, is tired, but I'll never forget. Like my dad didn't understand because he grew up more of like a auto shop guy, like mechanic.
Same.
And he just did not. Yeah. He didn't understand like, why are you going here to lift weights? Like just go work on stuff. Like he was one of those just like rugged, hardcore, just dudes, where it's just like, what is all this weird stuff, So it was just, it's interesting to kind of get it started so young, to your point. But as you were explaining that, I do recall, whoever was like the most fit, jacked looking person was the trainer. And gosh, I remember leaving, even when I was young, just looking at people going like, that can't be right. What they're doing to people. Like, that can't be how this thing works. And then later, of course, as you go through it, you're like, yeah, no, that's not
Yeah.
good. Cause I'm sure you got some pretty good horror stories yourself, but,
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it's funny because when I think back at how young I started, not many of us can say that, right? Like, look at, I can't name one friend of mine from high school that was a female that would say the same story that I had. None
yeah.
of, and I would literally, while I was at the gym, all my friends were out smoking cigarettes, finding whatever, drinks that they could have. And I would then try to meet them after, but I never did any of that stuff. I don't know how I ended up being a good girl, but I was. Like my parents didn't even realize, like, I was like a really good girl.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was always selfish intentions. Like my family would say, "Oh, you're the good one." I'm like, "No." I was like, "There's two things. One, I just happened to do a few less stupid things than my brothers, and just didn't get caught. So I was lucky, not better, lucky. And number two, I was so selfish. I was like, well, I remember reading about alcohol slowing protein synthesis. So I'm like, such a meathead. I'm like, I can't drink alcohol because then that's 8 hours of me not converting protein. you know, but hey, whatever works. But and then I was such a baby. I just hated that feeling, of like even just a couple of drinks. I would call that a hangover. And I was just like, well, I want to train the next day. Like, I don't feel like this. So yeah, it just never really appealed to me. I mean, here and there, but and then eventually, as life kicked in, it was like, yeah, it's just not worth it. I'd just rather not. I'd rather have a little bit more energy. So,
Yeah.
But I am curious, like, just to stick on that time period a little bit, and then I want to transition in some follow-up questions. So I'm going to do my best attempt to kind of set this up a little bit. But I'm wondering, like, what was your experience like specifically as a woman in the 80s and then transitioning in the 90s? And then just kind of like, what was it like over, say, like that 20 years, going from like late 80s to like 2010? Like, how did things change,
Mm.
as far as like resistance training versus just group fitness and women? I would imagine you were probably one of the only women in the weight room area when you were versus like
Mhm.
20, 25 years later. What was that like?
I guess there's a part of me that kind of says, I wish I knew what I knew now, right? So if I had more education and really knew what I was doing, I probably would have spent more time in the gym and less in group fitness, which I hate to say that because group fitness, I'll be honest, like, that will always have my heart, because
Sure.
it's where you make friends, you build a community, you have endorphins, you sweat together. There's nothing in comparison to that. But I will say that if you really want to look like you were in the gym, you really want to do more of the strength training
Sure.
and build muscle. So I really wish I had known more of that. I was a cardio junkie. I was doing way too much. So for me, I would say in my 20s to my 30s, I was doing probably an hour of cardio a day. Let's just say, we'll say 45 minutes to an hour, meaning like running, stair stepping, that kind of stuff. Then I would also be teaching class. So I don't know how many classes I had, but anywhere from 1 to 2, let's say, a day. And then I would be also strength training, but my strength training wasn't progressive overload. So it would be, I mean, I would say that I was at the same dumbbells for years. We're talking like 10 years doing the same dumbbells, right? But I was also super under eating. So I
Right.
was eating like 12 to maybe 1,500 calories. And I was not lean and jacked. So I was then running around to different doctors saying, I'm doing all this stuff. Why am I not jacked? Why am
Right.
I leaner? I kept saying, check my thyroid, check it. What's wrong with me? And not one doctor ever said to me, well, you're just not eating enough food just to sustain your active lifestyle to build muscle.
Right.
So I was constantly doing this with my own body.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting to see how things have evolved, because I can recall, I probably started like officially training in 2000, I want to say. Um, and I remember like trying to get guys more into group fitness and pulling the women out of group fitness. Like, hey, just do it. It wasn't like this is good, this is bad. Cause like I remember the instructors just get so upset with the trainers thinking we're pulling. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like this costs my client nothing. They're not gonna do their cardio. Like they're just not. Like that's why they're out of shape or overweight. And they're trying to get this into the life. So, but if I can have an appointment, like, hey, I'll be at the desk. I'm meeting Susie, my other client, but I'm gonna watch you walk in a cycle to make sure you go. Like that's free, no extra cost for that, for a little accountability. But I loved it because it was, I knew what they were getting in there. And then as group fitness, it did start to evolve around 2010, at least where I was at, where they started to work in more. They would have like interval days, base building days, anaerobic threshold training days, things like that, where like I could like prescribe a little bit more where to go and what to do, and that seemed to help. And then I think the last thing that was like a huge game changer for me, and I think for a lot of men, is like specifically like yoga, of course, but specifically like vinyasa, like doing a flow. Oh
Huh?
my gosh, like I still to this day want to fit it back into my schedule, because I used to do these 90-day experiences because I worked. Later, I got in the corporate side of the fitness business, so I wanted to understand the market. So I would go do 90 days of like swim, 90 days of tennis, which I was terrible at both, 90 days of yoga, and I'll never forget doing the yoga. And I was just like, I thought it was so weird the first couple weeks, and the last like couple weeks, I'm like, this is amazing. Like once I just, kind of just from force and going, and so I just think there's so much utility to some of those things, to where it's not like a one size fits all, or one's good and one's bad. It's just what's the right blend, and what are your goals, and where are you at in life. And for me, it was more the breathing, the mobility, opening up so that the correct muscles can interact better when I am lifting. And that made a huge difference. And then from an athletic standpoint, it's, weight training can actually, I should say, single plane motion, isolated weight training can actually be not cause more harm, but can definitely cause some harm and restriction in like athletic, in an athletic environment. So that's where that whole thing comes from. But
Agreed.
so with that, so you're transitioning through and training, you start getting into it. What were some of your early clientele that you worked with, and what are some things maybe that, when your kind of first 10 years, if you will, of training, do you start to see, was it women, men, a mixture of both? Like, what did that look like for you?
I would say I had a mixture of both. For probably in the very beginning, it was I think more women. And then as I got a little older, probably more in my late 30s, 40s, I had definitely 50-50. So 50% men and 50% women. This is all in person. And here's the interesting thing is, and I think I can say this because I am both. I've been both. Is as an in-person trainer and an online coach, I can say that the people that see an in-person trainer, um, they're not as, I'm going to say this is going to be, this might become more of a feisty words, but I think they're not as committed. So, and why I'm saying that is because they need to have the appointment, right? They haven't made it still a priority. So you're only meeting a trainer 2-3 times a week, right? And the other days you're not doing anything.
Right.
Generally, when you see an in-person trainer, I'm not doing the nutrition with you, right? That's not part of it. So with my online program, they can have 3 to 5 days of strength training, depending on what you tell me what can fit in your lifestyle. And then, so now I have clients that can actually do it the right way. And then the other part of the in-person is that you have people that are like, well, we just did that last week. I don't want to do that again. And I'm like, but that's what progressive overload is.
Right.
So, and when that's your livelihood, what am I going to do? Argue?
Sure.
I would do in-person training 100 times different. Knowing what I know now, I would make it so that you'd have to pay me $5,000 to $10,000 just a retainer just to work with me. So that way I know you're all in. 2, I would literally be like, if you show up more than once late, you get one free pass. Show up late again, I'm not training you. If you're 5 to 10 minutes late, I don't care if you show up. We're not training.
Right.
And you're paying for that session. If you cancel more than one time, you're out. You're off my schedule. Like, I would do things so differently. You can't bring your phone into a session. Like, literally, I would be so much stricter and more. I would have more self-worth for myself as a professional than I used to. Back then, I'd be like, well, it's their money, so if they want to waste it, no. I don't have that mentality anymore. I don't.
No, it's when I first got into training, I actually had a woman who was an entrepreneur. She sat me down and she said, I don't tell people I train with you until we've been working together for 6 months. And this was her second time working with me because I moved gyms. And I was like, well, why is that? And she's like, Joe, brand. She's like, if I'm out of shape telling people I work with you, that's going to hurt you. And she cared about me. She's like, I want to see you do well. She's like, so I wait till I start losing weight and I feel confident. Then I tell people about you. And I'm like, huh. And that's when she got to like the accountability. She got me thinking about, I never really fired a client, but like firing a client I never had to, but I used to say that in my consultations, I started to shift my pitch to say like exactly what you're saying, where it's like, this is how much it is. You must do this many days outside of it, blah, blah, blah. And I had a little joke because I was competing in bodybuilding at the time, and albacore tuna was really expensive for me. So I had a client, and if he sees this, he knows who he is. But he had in his trunk, he had the vacuum pack albacore tuna because if he was ever running late, that was the penalty. You had to bring me tuna, and it had to be albacore. It couldn't be like cheap canned crap. I was like, get out of here with that crap. So, anyways, he would bring it, and there was one time out of the 10 years we worked together that I did have to tell him, like, look, man, the tuna was a joke, like for a little while, and it was fun, but like you need to get here on time. He's like, I know, and, he was good, but I tried to make fun of it, but I'm with you on that. I never. I read a book a while back and it was talking about tracking like customer experience and it's about net promoter score and blah, blah, blah. But anyways, the point of the book was it talked about like bad profits. And I never wanted to have bad profits. It's where you're making money, but you're not adding value to somebody.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want that. Oh, you signed a contract to train with me. Like that, like, no, because it just doesn't feel good. It even feels grimy, So it's like, I just want people, to your point, that are committed. And I understand life happens. That's why they're hiring you, because they need that. But
Right.
yeah, I think you're spot on with kind of laying it down a little bit more for people. But have you seen any that transition into the online space, like what, what does that look like for you when you're interacting with clients? Like what are some common obstacles or hurdles you kind of have to help them navigate through as compared to like in person now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say this, I think this was also the same back then but I didn't know it. So this is now me knowing more, is the biggest obstacle for most people is mindset. And this is something that is new for me in the sense of mindset is about believing that you can do it, right? Going all in and being like, all right, I'm going to commit to this process and I can see the results. Here's the thing, though, is I think that this might be more of a woman thing. I don't know if men have this because I'm not a man, but so many women, they don't know how to make themselves a priority, and then when it's time to make themselves a priority, they're lost. Like they don't even know how to. So now they're so you don't know how to make yourself a priority. You don't believe in yourself to make the changes. There's so much lack of self-worth. There's so many things, and then and now because I'm in that space uh, of I want to really incorporate faith work into my work.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I wish that I'd realized that maybe if these people believed in the fact that Jesus loves you and God loves you, that would help you to take that next step to love yourself. I don't know, but that is something that I'm working on myself and trying to see if that will help my clients. Because at this point, I just want anything to help. But I've literally had to tell clients, I need you to wake up every day and tell yourself, look in the mirror and say, you are beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
5 times every morning. And they're like, but I that's awful. Like I can't. Just do it. Just do it until then it starts to feel more natural. And that's sometimes will hold women back from losing weight, is because they literally will say awful things to themselves.
Yeah. No, it's, I mean, I think you're spot on. I mean, it's a lot of that mindset, and it's the old like garbage in, garbage out. Like I used to tell my wife this and she laughed at me, but then understood, when my daughter was like 2 years old, I'll never forget. I'm like, I'm going to positively brainwash her, because if not, the world is going to brainwash her and that's going to be negative. And we would go places and there'd be like, I'll never forget one time. And this was probably me going a little overboard. There's a line of kids going to get like candy or something. And I sat her down and I said, see that? I said, you don't ever follow the crowd. I was like, because that's not where the magic happens. Like, we're gonna, this and that. And I'm explaining to her not to follow the crowd and not to fall for it and blah, blah. And she's looking at me and all she's thinking is like, okay, but where do I get the ice cream? Like, and my wife's like, Joe, not one of those moments right now. We're talking ice cream. But I'm like, no, I gotta teach her, she's gotta be herself. And I will say, like, it's pretty cool to see. I didn't mess her up yet. She's 13 and she's bold in her faith and her beliefs and the things that she stands for, and a
Yeah,
lot bolder than I was. And I was a pretty big fella as a teenager, pretty strong guy and all that good stuff. But I was a coward compared to her. So I think we're doing something okay. Probably more my wife than me, but I'll take it.
that's great. That's so smart. I think I wish more people would understand the positivity starting young. I think that's so tremendous.
Well, I know we're going to get to the fitness stuff, but I did want to give you a congrats too on this occasion.
Thank you.
So how long ago? So you were baptized. How long ago was this again?
That was about 2 months ago. Yeah,
Nice.
54 and baptized, and I'm a Jew. Double whammy.
What was that like for you, kind of at this stage in life and with your upbringing in the Jewish faith?
Yeah, it was. I would. God, it was so. I could probably still get emotional and cry about it now. It was so powerful. It was so great that it was my choice, that it was something I wanted to do. So I had gone to church a few times with my boyfriend, and literally like maybe 2 Sundays a month. But every time I went, I literally felt like they were talking to me, and to
Mm.
the point where even he would bump my arm, be like, they're talking. I'm like, I know they're talking to me. It was so crazy. And they bring up Jews a lot because Jesus was Jewish. So,
Right.
so we're almost a year ago, Christmas Eve, we're leaving church, and there's a lot of people around. It's nighttime, right? Because they do night services then. And the pastor's coming in. And this guy's a really cool guy. Like, he speaks really well. He's like says dude in his sermon. He's just super, super great guy. So, and he's walking towards me. There's no one around him. And I literally, without a hesitation, walked right up to him, put my hand out and said, "Hi, I'm Pam Campbell, and I'm a Jew, and I'm super confused." And literally, he was like, "Well, this is great to meet you. Send me all your questions. I'm happy to answer them." And I'm like, "Okay, great." Sent him a list. And the first four I can remember were, if Jesus was Jewish, why isn't everyone just Jewish? Why didn't Jews believe in Jesus? What were some of the other ones? If I am Jewish and I don't, say I believe in Jesus and I die, my boyfriend dies, will I be able to see him in heaven? Or if I do, uh, turn to Jesus, but I'm Jewish and he's Christian, will I be able to see him in heaven? All these like probably fifth grade questions, and
Oh, great questions. Yeah.
yeah, and there were more, and then he answered all of them. It was really great, and I loved the answers, and it made me start thinking. And my favorite band is Need to Breathe, and I literally just flew to Connecticut and saw them, and brought my boyfriend to see them for the first time. And you know what? This is what's so cool. This is actually it gives me goosebumps. I've seen them in concert live 10 times. I've flown everywhere. I've seen them. Like, I'm kind of a groupie. I even have the lead singer wrote this in a marker on my arm, "Be yourself," and had it tattooed. Okay. So that's how much of a groupie I am. And this Saturday night was the first night I heard them, because they sing very gospel music, and I
Mm,
never heard it. I really liked their music,
yeah.
but I heard it. And my boyfriend was like, "Do you realize they do sing a lot about Jesus and God?" I'm like, "Yeah, I heard it for the first time."
Yeah. Interesting.
And he was like, "Wow." I'm like, "I know." It moved me in a completely different way.
Yeah.
So, but now that I feel like this has changed my training, because
Mhm.
when someone comes to me and they're feeling low, they're feeling depressed, or like I had this one client and she's like, "I've just been so depressed, I can't do anything." And I'm like, "Where's your support system?
Right.
What's your faith? Like, start going to church."
Right.
Right? Like, to me, that's first thing to do. Go to church. Surround yourself with like-minded people, and then from there we can build all the other things.
Yeah. No, it's great to see that you're sharing those things in life that, to help others as they're kind of moving through their process and trying to find things, because you see a lot of overlaps and parallels, and people have their different views and beliefs and things of that nature. But I think if you look at the core of things, there's a lot of utility and value, I think, in all the above. So
Mhm.
um, with that, I was going to just kind of transition a little bit into, as you were transition. I think you mentioned, so you're 54 now, and as you're kind of going through the stages in life, and maybe friends of yours and such, what are some of the differences maybe from that like early 30s to kind of 45 plus, 50 plus, that you see out there in women's health? Like, are there any kind of things that jump out at you?
Yeah, for sure. So these are, and some of these things are purely my opinion, not science based, but just from years of experience working with people. I think that a lot of women have infertility issues because they're not eating enough food, not eating enough protein, and not enough lean muscle. So there's
Mhm.
that. Then those same things are the same three that affect women in perimenopause, and right, it's the same
Right.
exact three. So I'm trying to get the word out to women younger, in your 20s, start lifting weight, eat more protein, and not be in a I mean, look, I grew up in the era of Twiggy, Elamos, we're talking about 000 humans that in genes, like there were literally 00, triple, I don't even know if they make those anymore. And we were taught to be smaller and smaller and smaller, right?
Mm,
And now, thankfully, and I will say thanks to Kim Kardashian, because I think she's the one with the big butt that started it. But really, it's because of her that women started to want bigger butts. But the bigger butt thing is also, they're just thinking that they could train their glutes and get bigger.
right.
And so now there's this like body dysmorphia. So I really just think that women just need to understand that if you start eating more food, but in a controlled way, I'm not telling women to increase their calories to above maintenance, but educate yourself. All of us that are these fitness people, we tell you how to do it. You
Yeah.
could go to my page and literally get all the info on how to lose weight, increase muscle, everything for free on my page.
Yep.
It's
It's all there.
it's all there. ChatGPT, it's all there. You could do
Yep.
it. So why are people doing it? Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because it's hard. I mean, what's harder? Being 300 pounds, not fitting into an airplane seat, not being able to move, not being able to pick up your kid fell and you can't even pick them up off the floor. You look at these humans now that are so overweight and their kid falls and they can't do anything, or
Yeah.
kid is running out into the street and you can't run after them to grab them.
No, there's definitely, yeah, it's definitely, I'm curious to see what you've seen and if it's been different in different eras, if you will, or different time periods. But I think especially some of the, I would say the 40 plus crowd, there's a mixture of a couple things. Like one is I think when they grew up, generally speaking, food quality was just better. B, portion sizes were way more under control. And I would say, and C, there was just the general sick care model in America for Americans, which is there's utility there, it's needed, but it's a sick care model. And they mistaked it with health, like, because it's called healthcare, but with like healthcare, with being like healthy or being optimal or fit. And the reality is that's why there's people that get, doctorates. There's doctorates in pharmacology. There's
Yeah,
just your general practitioner. And there's doctorates in exercise physiology. There's, master's and doctorate degrees in the dietetics world, because these are all different pillars, if you will, to health. And I think a lot of that started probably late 90s. And it seemed like it was more in the military with a lot of the exercise phys stuff. But now it's kind of mainstream. And so anyways, I see a lot of that where there's like misunderstanding, or they don't think what they're doing is as bad as it actually is.
right.
And I think sometimes that's the piece. And then they've probably tried it without guidance before
Mhm.
and then just failed. And I think of examples like, I'm eating healthy. This is a healthy food, but they don't look at the caloric density or the add-ons. Like, yeah, I eat salad a lot, but they're loading it with 500 calories extra, 800 calories extra from a ranch and cheese, or more than that, things of that nature. So I tend to see that a little bit more. And it's like this, like, you think I'm speaking a foreign language, or people that I know that we're working with these folks, like, they're just like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not eating enough of this or that. What are some of the things kind of you're seeing as far as like the relationship with food and lack of activity out there, and just kind of some of the misconceptions that people have when they're interacting with you?
I get this all the time. People will say this to me. Well, yeah, but I eat healthy. Okay, but you're probably under eating. So this is what most people do. They might know how to make better choices, which is great. Whole foods, all of that. But eating healthy doesn't mean that it's going to get you lean. So, and what I think most people do is, and I'll use this as an example, and this is the one that it generally will make people go, oh, I get it. So on Monday, let's just say you have your normal day, because let's say Mondays, most people are like, all right, we got to get back on track, right? So let's just say that their maintenance is 2,000 calories. We'll do an even number so it's easy for us. So let's say they actually get around 2,000 calories, okay? So then the next day, maybe they're at like 18. And then the next day is bowling night, and they have a happy hour. And now they're at, um, 2,500. And then and because they went out Wednesday night, they're like, on Thursday, they're like, oh, you know what? I had some beer and some wings and some pizza. So, Thursday, I'm going to cut it back. So now they only have 1,200 calories. And then on Friday, they go out and they have a dinner out and they have a couple drinks. They have some of that great sourdough bread at the restaurant, and then they have a few bites of dessert. And now you're at 3,000 calories. So that's Friday night. Then Saturday, you're feeling bad. So now you have like 1,200 calories, but last minute, I'm going to go out. So now I'm back up to 3,000 calories. And now Sunday, we're back to 1,300 calories because you feel bad for Friday and Saturday. So the human body, and during that whole time, let's just say you're working out, right? So now the human body is going like this. What the fuck do? I don't know what you want me to do. Am I supposed to gain muscle? Am I supposed to lose fat? Well, so the human body's main function is just to keep you alive, right?
Right.
There's two functions: to keep you alive and to reproduce, right?
Right.
So, and it's not about making you feel good, looking good, nothing, right? Just to keep you alive and maybe to reproduce. So now, knowing what we know about that, so if it's to keep you alive and you're all over the road with your food, what's it going to do? It's going to store body fat because it's protection mode.
Right.
And that's how the cycle starts.
Right. Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, and I think what I find interesting, this is not about like, it can be, I don't know if frustrating is the right word, but it's like people think, especially those who are in the health, fitness, wellness space, they think it's like a judgmental shaming thing. And it's like, no, 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 no. We're just trying to get you to realize, like, and a lot of people will block that. So like that same person they'll say, yeah, I think when I had that grilled chicken, it had a little bit of this, and I think that's why my stomach's off. And it's like, you don't think it's the 7 drinks and the pizza and the processed wings you had? Like, just maybe a thought. Like they'll pick the one kind of semi-healthy thing,
right?
Or maybe they added a new vitamin or whatever. I don't know, and it could be that, but and they'll associate the negative with that instead of going to, oh, I ate like a-hole the other day, and so maybe that's what happens. And then understanding, some of these foods, some kind of go right through you, others, will sit for a very long period of time. So some of those negative effects might not pop their ugly head for 2, 3, 4 days. Yeah. So it's, really understanding. I guess like talking to people to not, it's almost like talking about finance nowadays, like talking about nutrition is like taboo or whatever, like you're not supposed to. And it's like, well, wait a minute, like how are we going to help you? Like we just got to talk about it. There's no judgment here. We're just trying to help you. Like relative to your goals, yes, this is counterproductive. We got to call that out and figure out how can we work around this. So, yeah, I don't know, how else, to approach it in that respect. But I think just setting up good, healthy dialogue with clients and getting them to understand the importance of knowing what's going on, and that like, I'm here, you're working with me to get you to a goal. Like this isn't about, I'm not trying to babysit you here or wag my finger at you. Right. I mean, maybe a little bit, but
yeah. And so many people are resistant to tracking. They feel like that they don't want their life to be tracked. And I get
right.
that. I mean, you're talking to someone who, from the age of 39 to my current age, I have weighed my food. Like I weigh. So if I'm home, I have a scale on my counter and I always weigh. And I may not always track it, but I always weigh it. So at least I know I'm having within the portion size that I'm supposed to.
Yeah. And I think like one of the things I want to ask you about, because I was glancing at some of your before and afters, right? Like what And certainly you help people on all different levels. So it's not just the super obese, because I also think that's also a misconception where like people are 30, 40, 50 pounds of excess body fat and they're like, well, I'm not that bad. And it's like, it's not about that. Like it's not a competition, you know. But my point in that is, you know, I'm looking at one of your Elizabeth's transformation. So she dropped, I believe it was 150 pounds with you. Can you talk a little bit about like either her specifically? I'll just pull it up to give a shout out for her progress there. Like her, or people like that where you're working with such large drops in weight. What are some things you're seeing in that, and when you're approaching those situations and in your approach? Like what are some common obstacles that people with 50, 100, 150 plus are facing, etc.?
Yeah, I'm very honest. Like I literally am very transparent. And the people that need to lose 100 pounds, I would say are the hardest clients.
Mm.
They really are. And a lot of them will admit it. I'm at a point now where if someone comes to me and they need to lose 100, 150 pounds, I, I, uh, I have to qualify them because they, and this is going to sound maybe awful, but they have the most excuses, right? They're not all in, or it's just harder for them. But at the end of the day, you're just making it harder on yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So especially when someone says like, well, I have knee pain. Well, yes, of course you have knee pain.
Right.
You're holding 100 extra pounds on those joints. Of course you do. Your body doesn't want to carry around 100 extra pounds. So when someone is complaining about their feet hurting, their knee pain, and all these things, I'm like, yes, your body should complain because you've allowed yourself to gain this amount of weight, and I'm not judging you for that. But now you're saying, well, I can't. No, you've got to go past that pain. You
Right.
have to. Like you have to kind of say to yourself, you know what? I know I'm in pain, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I'll get on a bike instead. I'll break up the steps so it's not all in one time, so that way it won't hurt as much, whatever it is. But it's going to be a second job for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're, I'm curious too, when some of these, cause you know, you're primarily working with perimenopause, menopausal women. What are some of the common myths that you just wish would die and go away? Cause it's just confusing so many women when they're coming in to see you. Are there any that pop out at you that come to mind?
Oh yeah, 100%. So, I think that women are still scared of HRT, right? I still think they're scared. I would say at least 2 to 3 times a day, I get messages that I'm scared. I don't know what to do.
Mm.
And I've tried a lot of the modalities. I'm one of those people that I like to try things.
Sure.
I do. I've tried pretty much everything. I've done pellet once. I didn't really like the pellets. It wasn't for me. Injection seems to be what's best for me. I inject twice a week and keeps me pretty level, I guess. My testosterone was at a 4 for a long time. And when you're that low, you know, and women complain about, you know, being very tired. But here's the problem is that when, how do I say this so it makes sense? I'm going to use this as an example, even though this is a guy. I was working out with this guy in the gym and he was 35 years old, and he would come to our workouts literally like a freaking bitch, always tired, always cranky. And one day I finally said to him, like, dude, go get your testosterone check because you literally are like a freaking baby. You're such a baby, and something isn't right with you. And he actually listened to me, which was crazy. And his testosterone was at 180, and he's 35 years old.
Wow.
So now take that from a man to a woman, right? The same thing. Like he didn't even realize that he'd been living in a state of being miserable when it didn't have to be.
Right.
And he got on testosterone. He was like, oh my God. He literally within, I want to say in 2 months, he came back. I mean, we were working out together. So he was like, oh my God, it's like 9 days. Like, I can't believe I was living like that.
Right.
And, and I didn't know any better. It's the same for women. It's the same. So you have these women that are like constant, and they think it's because they're chasing after kids, they're working, they have to clean the house. Yes, I'm not saying those things aren't adding to it, but you could feel so much better to do all those tasks if you were on the right HRT.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And what are some of the things that they're like, if we're talking women, like what are they confused about? Is it the safety of it, or is it just,
Yeah, they still think that they can get cancer from it.
hmm,
Um, they I think a lot of them also, there's the, who do you go to? Here's the other thing, because you have these 35-year-olds that will go to their regular doctor or OB/GYN and ask for a hormone panel test, and they say, no, you're too young.
hmm,
And I'm like, you ask again and fight for it, or you find another doctor that will give it to you.
right,
Right? Like those are the things that they're battling with, is when another doctor says you're too young, it's my right. Like, give
right.
me a blood test.
It's a test. We're not asking for like a pharmacology for or something. Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. What about like in the area of nutrition? Is there any common myths or things that you see that when women come in, maybe there's a gap there and a misunderstanding?
Yeah, still for sure. Well, I think that here's the thing. You go to a primary care physician and they've had 30 minutes of education on nutrition and fitness,
Right.
right?
Right.
30 minutes, literally. It's 30 minutes to an hour. And this was said in numerous podcasts that I've listened to with doctors. So I'm not just spewing false
Sure.
information.
Yeah.
So technically, you compare you and I to a medical doctor, and you and I have way more education than a regular doctor
Right.
in this realm.
Right.
So I would say that most doctors don't educate their people that they're under eating for too long. If anything, they're telling them to eat less. It's like crazy. So they don't even know what their patient is eating, and they're saying, if they're overweight, they're saying, well, maybe you need to cut back on calories. Well, what if this person's already only eating 1,200 calories and now you're telling them to eat 900? You're
Mm-hmm.
slowly killing them. That's really what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. I also think that, women, the protein, they think that too much protein is, I don't know what they think.
I've
But
heard it from like it's going to cause their kidneys to shut down to, it's going to make them big and bulky to, gosh, I don't even know what else. But yeah, those are kind of some of the main ones I hear, to where it's like, no, 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 but you just have a basic minimum threshold. Let's go ahead and get just to that to keep your lean body mass active and with the right amino acid profile in your bloodstream to help refuel repair and growth. Like this is not a new TikTok trend. This is something that's been pretty well researched and documented for quite some time now. So
and I think I'm a great example because I don't have great genetics. I didn't come from a family that was, by any means. I was a chubby kid. Uh, I worked hard for this body, and that's the other thing. That is the other myth or misnomer, whatever, I don't know what you call it.
yeah,
But people think that, kind of like guys, they think that if they go on steroids, it's just going to make them jacked and juicy. Same thing with HRT. That's not the case.
right,
You still have to do the work. It's not like,
right,
or in the same thing with the GLP-1s, you still need to lift the weights. It's not like you take the GLP-1 and don't, you got to still maintain lean mass.
right.
So, and I'm a fan of all peptides. I think I mean, not all, I don't know about all of them, but majority of them
Sure.
that I know
Yeah.
about, I do like peptides. So, so I think that's also the misconception is, if a woman to think that they're going to get big and bulky uh, is insane now, because that's all we say on social media is you can't get big. And if that was the case, I would be so huge.
Right.
I'm 5'1" and I weigh 128 pounds. Like, I'm not huge. I'm tiny.
So I'm curious too, when someone's coming from that mindset, the sedentary, hey, I had a healthy weight most of my life, had 3 kids, married, the job, the whole deal. And all of a sudden I'm showing up to you and I'm in my mid 40s and, I got 30, 40 pounds, whatever the body fat, the amount of fat that's on them. Cause I know we can talk about weight and sometimes that's also not sometimes all the time that's misrepresented because it's fat we're trying to lose, not weight. Like you don't know when many people say, I want to lose a bunch of muscle. Right. So with that, what does it look like when you're trying to get them going? Like how many, going from couch to the gym, right? Is it 2 days a week, 3 days? Like, is there a cardio days? Is there a combination of both? Like, what are some of your first things to get people just get that inertia going in the right direction for people?
I would say that if someone is definitely not they're intimidated by the gym, then what I would probably do is just get them going to the gym and walking on the treadmill, right? Get them just comfortable walking in the door.
Yeah.
So there's different stages. So that could be one stage for a person is just doing that. And while you're on the treadmill, a lot of the gyms have it so that the treadmills will look out into the gym and you can start to watch people lift, get comfortable with the movement, right?
Yeah.
So it's like one good way to do that. For someone who's maybe a little bit more ready, then starting them with like 3 days a week of full body with their steps. And then I do find that incorporating the food and the workouts to a new person both together is a little overwhelming. Kind of introducing one then the other is a bit better.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of times I think people are. It's a lifestyle change and an identity change as well. To where a lot of people think it's a motivational. I'm gonna get after it change, and it's like no. This is and the reason I bring that up is motivation runs out. So to really build discipline, you need some momentum. You need some practical tools like over time layered in to change that because.
Yeah.
Regardless if you're saying it consciously, your still identity has been, if we're using my example, fill in said businesswoman position, mom, husband, unhealthy person. Well, now we're trying to say all that energetic, active, fit person, right? So we're changing the identity of that person, whether they know it or not. And that's what'll drive their habits and behaviors, but it's got to start somewhere.
Right.
And I think that's where, and knowing that ahead of time, there's going to be slippery slopes. You're going to not get your steps in. You're going to grab crap every once in a while. But like, how do we mitigate against that and minimize it over time so you can keep moving towards, the direction you're trying to go is a lot of times what I think is just giving people that hope and a little encouragement to kind of make sure they can continue to go forward.
What I always tell people is this: I'm not perfect. Like literally, I was just away in Connecticut this past weekend and I ate like shit. I got in a lot of steps, but I tried to work out one day. That didn't really work. I mean, I lifted a little bit, but I was talking to people because I was in my old gym and it was more of a social thing. So, but here's the thing is I'll do that, but I will get right back into everything as soon as I'm back. Right. Whereas some people might take them like another week or two to get back in. But if you have the systems in place and the habits already set up, it's so much easier.
Sure.
And that for you and I, right? Like I'm sure you're the same way. That you have your moments where you're on, and then you go on vacation. You're gonna have fun, right? We don't have to be 100% all the time, and that's what I always say. I mean, last week I had the really thick Reese's peanut butter cup with caramel. Oh my God, it was so good. And I had one and I fit it into my day. It was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't freak out. I didn't weigh more the next day. Was it good food? Was it quality food? No. Is it something I do all the time? No. Right. So I would say like, pick your battles.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you about today too, about just when we get into the training side of things a little bit more, I noticed some of your content, you're talking about like kettlebell workouts for, over 50 and menopausal women. What are some of the things that specifically that you like about kettlebells, working them into the routine, successes you see from people, et cetera? Like what are your thoughts there?
I really like kettlebells. I used to do kettlebells years ago when they first came out. I was huge in them. I got kettlebell certified by the the leading guy in the industry. I don't even remember what his name is. And then I went through a phase of not doing them for a long time. I really like the kettlebell workout in the sense of this. If you have to choose between going for a run and doing a kettlebell workout, I would always say the kettlebell workout's going to be better for you, right? Because going for a run is a lot of wear and tear on the joints, the knees, hips, feet, all of it. But it's easy because it's free, right? You could just throw on some shoes and go out for a run. Kettlebell workout, I could do it in 16 minutes, get my heart rate up. I'm still working muscle. I'm still engaging my core. There's just so much more of a bigger bang for your buck in a short period of time. And that's kind of like why I really like kettlebell workouts. I just started incorporating them in my own workouts again the last recently. I was boxing because I actually really like boxing too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I did just do a few sessions of boxing, but to find a boxing person to hold mitts,
To know how to hold them the right way, right?
yeah, because I was boxing with this young kid, and if he smacks my glove and I'm punching, like that could really hurt my wrist and my elbow, and he was doing a bit too hard, here's the thing, I'm pretty good at boxing, so they always want me to get in a ring. I'm like, bro, I just need the cardio. Like, I don't need to get in a ring and hit someone. I'm fine. Like,
Yeah.
they always want to train me for that, and I'm like, I don't want to. So, and that's the other thing is as a coach, I need to hear my clients when they say things, just like these people. They need to hear them.
Yeah. Well, and I think though, finding things that you like that are fun and things of that nature too, because I know for me, like I would get so bored with just the treadmill or this or that. And so when I was in the physique sports, it was the Stairmaster
Yeah.
and interval training, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden I started realizing, because I had the bright idea in my 40s to get into jujitsu, and I realized how many calories I was burning. And literally all the ab training I did all
Yeah.
my life from a aesthetic standpoint
Yeah.
was completely wiped out within 6 months of jujitsu because of how much functionally I had to use my core. My abs
Yeah.
like looked 100 times better than I ever did.
Yeah.
And the strength and the back pain and the control of the mitts, all that stuff. But then my point bringing that up was like, you mentioned boxing, because I remember just even like tapping the bag and doing footwork, how much the heart rate would get up, but I enjoyed it, so I would do that. I would do ropes, because I'm like, forget staring at a wall. Like I just get bored, I do it, but yeah, like to do that every day for 60 minutes or whatever, it's tough. So I think it's important for people out there when they're working on some kind of a cardiovascular program. Number one, first and foremost, is just movement. Like don't over complicate it if you're going from the couch to like as I know in a lot of your content too, you're talking about steps. It's just
Yeah.
getting your steps in and movement
I
and
used to
progress.
make fun. When I was younger, I used to make fun of the people that came into the gym and walked.
Yep.
And now I'm one of them. And when I'm on the treadmill, I'm either listening to an audible book of the Bible. That's my latest thing, is I'm listening to the Bible. And then, or if I just need to like zone out, I'll watch Netflix while I'm walking, because
Yeah.
I think that's a great time to kind of take it as your own, right? And just forget your problems, forget the life, and just kind of zone out. I think that's also important to do that during that time.
Well, that was a huge thing. Like my wife and I we were working kids in travel sports, trying to have our own goals and all that good stuff. And we started just walking every morning. And I remember in my early 20s, snot-nosed little punk trainer, like telling people like, what, no, walking doesn't count. What do you mean walking? And now it's like, but I will say the habit, not only the steps went up, digestion got better. Like these are all things I know, right? But like I really felt it after a couple of weeks where I'm like, I'm more alert, I'm sharper, steps are up, definitely, digestion's better.
Yeah.
And then now that we have the habit formed,
Yeah.
low barrier, we're enjoying, relaxing, just doing it. Now we've started working in walk jogs, and then eventually we'll do some jogging. And then like just the other day, I went to the field with my daughter and we did like sprint work and different like soccer drills and stuff. But the point is like once you have that
Yes.
placeholder every day in the schedule of healthy activity, you can add on to it, where I think a lot of people that are going from the couch to trying to be healthy, they want to jump in and see like Jocko Willink's like protocol or whatever, or some fill in the blank athlete, influencer, etc., and just go and do like sprints, or they want to go back to their old self and
Right.
hey, when I was in ninth grade, I ran track and I'm going to do that. And it's like, no. That's not long. That's not lasting. But I'm glad you brought up like walking and movement, because I think that's important.
Yeah.
Are there any other low hanging fruit things you see, like maybe more in the women's health space, that you think either dietary, activity level, exercise, that's just missing out there? That's kind of low hanging fruit that easy to apply.
I mean, I would say this: you've got the women that are into the Pure Barre classes and that do yoga 5 days a week, and that's great. But really, those things, the Pilates, the Pure Barre, and the yoga, those should be a complement to your strength training, not as your main
strength training. Yeah.
Right, because at the end of there's no progressive overload with those. So I'm not poo-pooing them. Because you don't want to. And here's the other thing is, life is already so busy, so you're just adding more in. So now you're saying to someone, I mean, if I could live a lifestyle where I had 2 days a week of Pilates and I could get my steps in, and then I had my 4 days a week, 5 days a week of my strength training, and then I got my 2 days of kettlebells, and who has time for all that?
Right.
I mean, literally. So and then you also have in terms of the real strength training workouts, they should be workouts where you have a minimum of 2 to 4 minutes of rest between each sets to lift heavy. Who has that time?
Right.
I mean, so you think about it, and I'm like, I've got to make it so that the workouts can still be effective. They're not perfect because I don't have a perfect world.
Yeah. No, it's definitely something I had to learn, and it took me forever to finally get to this. Probably just the last couple of years, with the difference between like working out and training, because I'd always like be training for something, right? And a lot of people who have been in the competitive world of that where lifting adds to it, they know what I mean by that. But I had to just accept the fact. Like I recently was filled in, and they needed a head coach for one of our lower levels in football, so it took a lot of time away. I remember struggling mentally the first couple of weeks. I'm like, no, it's okay. Like in 3 months, this is over, and I can be right back to training. Right now, I'm just going to work out. If I progress at all in this next 3 months, great. But I just want to maintain where I'm at, and this is going to be my thing, my healthy activity.
Yeah.
My primary focus is going to be coaching and all the energy and support and all that goes into that. Where like maybe my jujitsu and any other training goals I had are going to have to kind of be on the back burner for the next 3 months. But mentally, I feel like now that the season's over, I'm actually even more hungry than I would have been if I would have kept training all the way through, to give me that little break,
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. And that's also, I love that you said that, is there are moments where it's going to be more just like a workout. And I would say that's something that in the last maybe year or so, I've been kind of, well, maybe not that long, maybe the last few months, was kind of working out, whereas now I'm back into training. So I get that, but I was maintaining because
right?
you and I are at the place of we can maintain.
Sure.
So I think that's the other thing. Whereas you have all these other people where they really need to take advantage of the time that they have now to train to gain more lean muscle. You and I already have the lean muscle. I'm just trying not to lose it.
Sure. Yeah, and if you get a little excited and want to push a little bit, you can for a phase, and then just back off. And one of the things I regret not getting to earlier in the episode here, but I do want to give you a chance to define something, because we've mentioned progressive overload a few times. For those out there who do not know what that means, can you give your definition of progressive overload, and then maybe follow it up with a couple like examples?
Sure. So progressive overload is where every time you work out, you're pushing yourself a little bit more. So really what you want to do is it's more intentional. So you might have so let's just say it's a full body, because that's an easy thing so let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're working out and it's full body. So you have 2 lower exercises and then 4 upper, we'll just say. So in those movements, you're going to go either up 2.5 pound plate, or you're going to go up a rep. on each movement, right? Or it could be higher in weight than that, because whatever it is, but mainly is you want to focus on your form. And then in that form, if you feel like, okay, I now can challenge myself and go up in weight, I'm going to do that. So that you're not just always staying at 10 reps and 30 pounds for a year. And that's something I did. So, and I can say that, did I look good? I mean, maybe I looked okay, but I think I would have, well, I think if my eating was better, but and I was eating more protein and higher calories, I would have been the body that I always wanted. But my point being is that progressive overload is, it's, you're progressing with overload. It's exactly the words, right? And how you overload it could be reps, sets, weight, and time under tension, just slowing down the movement. Because a lot of times I don't want to go heavier, but I'll slow it down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, a lot of, there's different really nuanced, detailed protocols out there, if you will. And people could argue on the internet all day about which one's better. But, I think pick your core movements that you're going to use and you master those. If you're a beginner, I would stay at them a little longer, maybe doing 16 weeks.
Yeah.
But I would say anywhere from 8 to 16 weeks, maybe. And then, you can rotate and do a different similar movement pattern, but a different movement. And then, as you just mentioned, like, you're monitoring, steadily bringing up your weight, your reps. One of the things we used to talk a lot about was like tempo, which is, the speed at which you lower the bar, the isometric hold, and then the, concentric part of the movement. Like if you're doing a bench press, like eccentric, concentric, right? Like how long do I do that? And then you can also play with rest periods. And I think for a lot of people out there, if you don't have the means or the comfortability yet to hire a coach or trainer, it's like, play with it. Like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't, what I just described is pretty, you're not going to do any worse by trying to progressively overload through a couple of those different modalities. And
Right.
yeah, maybe if you were training for the Olympics, you could have modified it better.
Right.
Maybe you would have been 5% better if you hired a coach during that time. But the fact, as you said earlier, like if you're just getting in a habit, just getting in and just doing it, let's start there. Even if it's like the old school bodybuilder push pull legs, like something.
I did that split for years.
Yeah.
Literally years. And I still think that's a great split. I'm such a firm believer. I just think that lifting is so essential for your mind, your spirit, your everything. And I understand the anxiety about going into a gym. I do. I have anxiety when I go into a new gym, and I know what I'm doing. So I can only imagine for someone who's brand new. That's why I've even told people, I want you to go to the gym, walk in, walk around, go to the bathroom, and then leave. Right?
Yeah, just realize that you didn't fall in. No one threw something at you or yelled at you. It's almost similar to like walking to a church, right? It's not going to burn down when you walk in. It's all good.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sometimes though, it's not going to happen often, but the less than 3% of the time, if it does happen, that's just not the gym for you, and that's fine.
Right.
There's other places to go, but yeah, because like there's a gym by my house that my wife loves, but she likes that it's quiet and there's less people, and she cranks her music and just does her own thing. No one bugs her. She doesn't have to wait for anything, but it's missing a lot of equipment, and I like energy.
So do
So I go there sometimes because our family's there, but then I have another gym that I really like that's a little bit more. It's not even full hardcore, because there's another performance gym that's about 40 minutes away that I would call that like more the hardcore one. And it's like the middle of the ground one. And so I think that is like my sweet spot. And it's the same with me with like, even when I'm training like combat sports, it's like, oh, this is a class that's more fundamentally driven. It's more a technique class. And then, oh, here's another class to where it's go time. Like these guys are training for a fight. I'm going to get smoked. I'm going to be hurt for 4 days, not hurt, but super, super sore for 4 days. But I'll go do the fundamentals class 2 days later, because I can still be doing that movement while recouping. So I don't know if that helps people out there, but just a little strategy and just kind of playing around with things. And then you kind of start to find your groove. And then once you get your tribe and get that community around you, that's when it's really exciting too, because
Sure.
it's just people in the gym. And honestly, like the most fit, at least in my experience, you tell me if I'm wrong, but like the most fit people in the gym, they don't realize they're as fit as they are, probably 90% of them. And then B, they actually do like to help people,
Mhm.
and they do like, they're more intimidated to come up to you if you're doing something wrong to help you than you are to go up to them to ask them for help. Because I know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, doing graduate studies in biomechanics, like I can't shut it off in my brain, even though I haven't been practicing it for quite some time.
Huh?
But like, I'll see stuff, and I don't go up to people because I don't want to embarrass them or offend them. But if they came up to me, they would probably be like, okay, you can stop talking to me now. Like, I'm
Right.
good. And I'm like, because I just love to share it.
Same. I'm the exact same. It takes so much strength for me not to go up to people and be like,
Yeah.
"Can I show you something?" Honestly, like there's so many people in the gym doing things, where I could just tweak them a little bit better and have them get just a little bit more out of it. Or you'll see the people doing the tricep extension, and they're doing it and they're doing it, and then they
Oh yeah.
stop, and then they look around, and then they go back and doing it again. I'm like, dude, you didn't even rest.
Yeah.
Just take 2 minutes, just rest, chill out, go walk around.
Yeah.
And so, or the people that do, they have all their momentum into it, and you're like, okay. And what baffles me is, why don't more people do this? This is something I did when I first started. Was I would look at the people that looked the best, and I would watch how they did stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Not
that's
that bad. Not that hard.
free training right
There you
there.
go. There you go. No, I will say that could be counterproductive sometimes. I'm saying that with a smile, but I'll tell you this fun little story. But this guy came up to me, it was probably 6 months ago, and I'm doing dynamic warm-ups, which takes me now. I went all the way up until like maybe 37 years old, something like that, with no warm-ups, maybe a 5-minute walk, if that,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
never warming up.
totally.
Now I literally do, and my buddies who are strength coaches and all that always tell me, like, dude, you know better. Like, you need to be doing like 20 minutes. Now I'm up to almost 40 minutes of a warm-up. I do 30 to 40 minutes of dynamic warm-ups. And this guy came over and he's like, hey man, he's like, you look pretty jacked, dude. He's like, you're kind of big dude and all this. He's like, but I haven't seen you touch a weight, and I've been here for a while. And he's like, he's like, I hope you don't mind, but I was like, no, it's all good. He's like, look, what are you doing? And I go, you haven't been here long enough, first off, bro. I'm like, trust me, man. I used to skip all this stuff, but now I have to. But then I did tell him, like, well, I was a competitive lifter for a while and blah, blah. I'm like, so that there's 20 plus years of building stuff up that you're not seeing also.
Right.
But it was just kind of funny because he just walked up and he's just like, I was so grateful he walked up, because I always notice I look over and people are looking at me. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I think I have rhythm. Like, I'm doing skips with kicks and butt kicks and knees and hip openers. And I'm sure they look over because I'm about 6'3", 245. So I'm not the smallest guy. So it's like, they're probably like, what is that dude doing? So, but it just, you never know also, like, what that person you see, what their past is, or
Right.
why they're doing what they're doing. Cause like, if I'm a little banged up, I'm going to do some stuff that looks funny.
Yeah.
Even so much so that recently I've been reading up on a couple PhDs. One of them, Brett Contreras, who does, like, the glute master guy.
Yeah.
And I've been reading, not like just reading more of his stuff and the why and the biomechanics behind how he's explaining it. And so I modified a few things, and I've actually been adopting for about 6 weeks more of a, dare I say, a woman's approach to training splits, where I'm doing glutes and hamstrings and lower back like twice a week, but
Yeah.
very glute focused. And I'm sure they see this, I'm not like a pro bodybuilder type dude, but I'm not small, doing like the glute stuff with the hands and all that. Like, what is this dude doing?
I do what he, like, a lot of the stuff he does. But yeah, I do glutes like 2 to 3 days a week, hamstring focus. Um, but I believe that a lot of back pain comes from tight quads and underdeveloped hamstrings and glutes.
100%. That's why I started doing it, because it was that. And then I noticed like explosiveness as far as like hip drive and stuff when it came to certain sports or takedowns, whatever. I was like, from not, I my back was bugging me a little bit. So I wasn't like loading my spine as much, as many movements. Therefore, my legs weren't getting as much load, which I could have, whole other side story and excuse. But so I started to work that in as my point. And by isolating it, I could lift more frequently, I noticed. But um anyways, I know we've been going for a while here, but I wanted to coming up on time, and I want to be respectful of that. I wanted to give you a chance to just kind of, if you wouldn't mind, we'll obviously have this in the show notes for those that are listening, but can you tell a little bit about like where people can find you, how they can engage with you more,
Sure.
all that fun stuff?
Generally, I think my handle, if you will, is Pam Campbell Coach in all my platforms. And I am coming out with my own app. Everything will be in this app: nutrition, workouts, community, devotional. Like everything is going to be a one-stop shop in this app. So I'm so super excited. Um, even as down to having the medical backup as well. So when people are coming to me and they're confused about their HRT or peptides or whatever, I have the backups for that in terms of the medical team to back me up, I should say. That's a better way to say it. And that's very exciting. So it's going to be, I really am just trying to create a place where women can love the skin they're in and
Yeah.
get their power back, really. I think that I'm here to try, I want to save all marriages. And I think that marriages struggle because women don't feel good. They feel like they don't look good. And then they turn into themselves and they don't know how to communicate with their loved ones, and then the husband feels rejected. So anyways, I'm on this mission to just, I want to save marriages, save relationships, help women to love the skin they're in, and I think when you do that, everything will fall into place.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, all the health benefits that are pretty well documented, but I would agree there's so many relationship benefits, so many things, and it's also just important if one is getting healthy and fit and active, the other one may not right away, which just giving time, leading by example, and patience, because there's been different times where my wife's doing positive things in her life and I just can't seem to get going. But if she would have been poking and criticizing, judging, etc., I would have turned it off, and vice versa. If there's different things I was doing, I know that's the case. So I think it's a great point you brought up, that maybe we'll have to have you back on soon to talk about that, because I've heard it from a few guests, and it's definitely an important topic that we really haven't peeled back enough. But the dynamic of, as we're progressing through life with our partners, like
Yeah.
where health comes in, where play comes in,
Hmm.
um, having fun. Like what my wife and I's, our favorite things are, they don't cost money. Like our favorite dates, we'll go on this really expensive stuff or like nice dinner and this and that. And we're like, yeah, it was okay. And then we'll go like, let's go play tennis,
Yeah.
and for free at the court. And we're laughing and it's just fun. Right. So
Percent. I believe in that. I don't really care to go out to an expensive dinner anymore. I would rather stay home, cook together, and then come up with three questions we both have to answer or something, whether they're silly or deep, whatever, something to that effect. I don't know.
yeah, for sure. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, and for everybody on the First Optimal podcast. If you have any questions for Pam, please send them over. We'll do our best to answer them and to connect you directly to her. She's been a great friend of ours, and we can't recommend her enough, and all that she's doing. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you guys. Take care.
So much.